Hi there, Misfits. Tera Lynn Childs here, back with another Ask the Author session. You guys sent me some good questions this time. I'm really excited to answer these, so let's get to them. So, the first question that I have came from Goodreads, which says, I love your books and have read two of your book series. This question is more about writing, but if you don't mind me asking, how do you get your ideas on paper? I would love to be an author one day, but I can never get my ideas onto paper. Okay, so there are two parts to my answer to this question. First is that there's two parts to getting your stuff on paper. First, you have to do the brainstorming, which is kind of developing the idea from the initial phase of, ooh, I have this great idea for a story, into something that is ready to actually become a story. Because, like, an initial idea, like a girl who goes to the school for the descendants of the gods, doesn't necessarily mean you know exactly what the whole story is going to be. So you need to spend some time developing that, which is the brainstorming phase. So in that phase, let me show you some of the tools that I use. I use index cards a lot. This is from a draft of the Oh My Gods, the third Oh My Gods book that I'm always kind of working on. It's not coming anytime soon, but hopefully someday. So I will put different things on note cards, which is like, beats from a story outline or notes about a character, um, notes about scenes, just different things, I can use different colored index cards for different parts of the story. I use index cards a lot now. I have in the past. I'm using a little bit now, but not as much. Um, uh, Notebooks. I've used all different kinds of notebooks in the past. I started off with really pretty spiral bound ones. Now I just really love these are moleskin volant. They're just like 80 pages or something. They have really narrow roll and really fine lines and faint lines, which I like, and they go all the way to the edge. But it'll be full of like scene notes and torn up post-its and things that are highlighted and character notes and just all different things of trying to figure out what the story is going to be, and then it's all collected in one place, for the future, for the archive. And sometimes also I break out the post-its, just because, like, writing something on a sticky note, and like maybe you can like play around with like the order that they're in, or have different colors for different things. Like maybe this is one plot thread, maybe this is the romance plot thread, maybe this is the internal, the external journey. Just things that you can like scribble a note on and move around. And finally, I'm trying to be a little more paperless now and a little more self contained. So I've been using my iPad a lot more, and especially this app called Good Notes that lets you create notebooks. So I have one for each different story that I'm working on right now. Like basically, I can write in it like it's a real notebook. Like this is some notes for what's hopefully the next part of the Darkly Fae series. It's like having a notebook and like an entire rainbow of like highlighters and markers, all in just using the iPad and the Apple Pencil. So that's what I'm using a lot right now for brainstorming, for tools anyway. And then the second part of getting your idea on paper is, of course, writing the first draft. Um, the things that I generally use for writing the first draft, I used to a lot more when I was first writing, use this device called the Alpha Smart, which it's really cool. It's super lightweight. It's really durable. You can't really break it easily. It was designed for school kids to learn how to type. And so I would just take this to a coffee shop and just sit down and like pound in as many words as I could in a day. And then when you get home, you can like connect it to your computer and like send the words directly into your like Word document or a Scrivener file, which I'll talk about Scrivener in a second, or wherever you're keeping your main manuscript document. So I used to use that a lot. I'm trying to use just my computer more. The other thing I use and have used for years, and it is really the primary reason that I switched from PCs to Mac, is Scrivener, which is an app that lets you have Word documents or like text-based documents and pictures and website links and revisions, and like basically can contain everything about a project, about a particular book or an entire series, like in one document folder. It's hard to explain. Maybe sometime in the future, I'll do a tutorial about how I use Scrivener to show you how it really works. So, other than sharing the particular tools that I use to actually get my words out of my head into an idea form and then out onto the page, the actual process of writing and developing a story is like a little more complicated than just an ask the author question. So if you want more details about specifically how I develop an idea into a story, I do have a blog post about how to turn an idea into a story. I will link that below. And if you have more specific questions, definitely drop them in comments or submit them at teralynnchilds.com/ask, and I will try to answer them. So that's basically how I get my ideas on paper. My second question in this video comes from my Ask the Author form. It says, I am a novel writer trying to get feedback on my novel. I have someone from an online book fan chat group who expressed interest in beta reading. I don't know this person in real life. Do you think it's worth the risk sending him my book? So, my answer to this is, first of all, it's great that you are seeking feedback for your novel. Like, you always need to get an outside opinion, especially early in your career, because there are just going to be things that like you don't see that make sense to you or you didn't even think about that someone else is going to point out. So it's always valuable to have another set of eyes. But the caveat to that is that not all feedback is good feedback. Getting a review, like especially like a really horrible review on a finished book is hard enough, let alone like a draft of a book, let alone a draft of one of your first books. So my personal suggestion would be that you should start with someone that you trust, someone that knows you and maybe is going to know how to word things in a constructive way, because people can just be critical or they can be constructively critical, and you need someone who is going to be able to like to help you turn your book into a better book. And some ways that people give feedback just make you want to crawl into a hole and cry. So I would also suggest, if at all possible, you start with someone who knows how to critique, who's not just going to be like, oh wow, that's really great, said my mom, because some people just are not capable, either because of their relationship to you or because of their relationship to writing or reading, don't necessarily know how to give constructive feedback that's actually going to help you make your book better. So if at all possible, I would say start with someone you trust. There's just so many crazy things out there on the internet, and if it's someone that you don't know even casually in real life, I probably wouldn't take the risk unless they have other people that can like verify that they're good at what they're offering to do. But that's just my opinion. Okay, my third question from this video comes from a blog comment. They ask, who was your favorite character from the Forgive My Fin series? That's a horrible question. And I am writing a memoir about a mermaid who becomes a goddess. Wonderful. It is about her life. Is your next book about a merman? Okay, so to answer the first question, I'm not really allowed to have favorites when it comes to my characters. Like, they're like children. These are people that I created and brought into the world, and I'm really not allowed to have favorites. But of course it's Quince, because of course it's Quince. Like, who else would it be? But also, I do have a soft spot for writing my bad girls. If you've read any of my series, there's almost always a bad girl who kind of turns out to not be so bad, or at least to be slightly more sympathetic. So in the Forgive My Fin series, that would be Dulcinea in the first couple books, and maybe even Astria, who is one of the terrible trio, which I have a short story about her. If you want to read that, I will link that in the comments below, in the show notes. And then the question about whether my next book is about a merman. I do have an idea for a series about a merman, but I'm not sure yet when I'm going to be writing it. But be sure and subscribe to my newsletter, which there'll be a link, of course, below, so that you know as soon as I have details to share about that. So that is the end of this Ask the Author video. As always, if you have a question you want me to answer next time, you can just drop it in comments below or submit it at teralynnchilds.com/ask. So until next time, stay magical.